Hi guys, welcome to A Touch of Film. As you guessed by the title, this is my top 20 movies of 2019. Now before I start, 2019 has been a great year for cinema. We've had some great movies. If you know this channel, it's dedicated to East Asian cinema. Whilst this list will also have Western movies on there, East Asian cinema has really excelled this year, especially from Taiwan, China, Japan. I think it's really excelled across the board. So I will have some Western movies, but obviously most of my movies are East Asian because that's the majority of the movies I watch. In the next few weeks I'll be doing my favourite Blu-ray releases of, well, it's across this week, my favourite Blu-ray releases of 2019, followed by my top 20 movies of 2010s. So there's a lot of movies that it's a really hard list to produce because there's been so many great movies in the 2010s, and it's one of those movies you don't know. It's all dependent on how you feel. But yeah, this is my top movies of 2019. So let's crack on with it. At number 20, we have Exit, directed by Lee Sang-gun, starring Jo Jung-suk and Im Yoon-ah. Now this movie is like a disaster movie. It's a Korean movie set in Seoul, where a terrorist releases a chemical gas into the environment, which causes illnesses and leading on to death. It's quite a dramatic movie. Whilst it's not really a lot based on the terrorist aspect of it, it's more about a survival film for these two rock climbers who just happen to be in the area when the disaster hits. It's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it's got a bit of everything in there: romance, action, tension. It's got everything, and comedy. A movie I highly recommend, and that is Exit at number 20. Next up we have Still Human, directed by Oliver Soo-kyun Chen, and it stars Anthony Wong, the great Anthony Wong. He plays a man in a wheelchair who receives help from a Filipino carer who acts as his maid and takes care of his chores. And it's a lot about the whole system of these women that come from the Philippines who just come to work and send money home and, you know, look after their family in the Philippines. Whilst this movie does emphasise on that, most of the emphasis is on their relationship between the carer and Anthony Wong's character, and it's quite a delightful movie. Anthony Wong won an award for this movie. It's one of his best movies, one of his best performances, I think, in recent years, and that is Still Human. At number 18, we have The Third Wife, directed by Ash Mayfair, which is a Vietnamese movie, and it's about a young girl who's about 14 who is has this arranged marriage to a landowner of a silk farm. And whilst this man has two other wives, she is now his third, and it really talks about the levels of, like, the wives. How the first wife is like the patriarch of all the females in the household, and then the second wife, and then obviously her being like the lowest. But there's a lot that goes on in terms of the relationships between other family members, and it's quite a charming movie and very beautiful. I think it's so beautifully shot. It's on Blu-ray in the UK. I think it was released by Eureka. I think it was that released it, which they released on Blu-ray. quite easily available everywhere on Amazon and other in store. So yeah, check that one out, guys. And that is The Third Wife at number 18. At number 17, it is The Lighthouse. This is a Western movie, an American movie directed by Robert Eggers. It stars, did I pronounce that right? Robert Eggers. It stars Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe. I love William Dafoe. I think he's one of the best actors to never win an Oscar. I love him in like Mississippi Burning, and I just think he's one of those actors that is just so versatile. Even his work with Wes Anderson, I really think he's a brilliant actor. But this film is so different. It tells the story of these two lighthouse keepers that are on a contract to maintain this lighthouse on an island, and just so many crazy things happen here. Whilst the story is quite simplistic, you think it's just two men getting drunk all the time, but we see a lot of a conflicting relationship between these two men, and it's just so bizarre but beautifully shot. It's done in this really rich black and white, and I think it's really fantastic movie. Highly recommend that. That is The Lighthouse at number 17. At number 16, we have The Irishman. This is directed by Martin Scorsese, stars Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel, an all-star cast really. As Martin Scorsese specialises in these gangster movies, we have Robert De Niro in this, playing this Irish-American sort of like an assassin who does jobs for Joe Pesci's character in this. And we see the film in three eras, you could say. And I think the only criticism I've seen people talk about this is like the CGI of Robert De Niro, the de-aging, which, I mean, I could see a few issues, but they're so minor that you don't really care. I mean, I think the performances themselves are really good. I think Al Pacino is just fantastic in it, and Joe Pesci's just great as well. So that is The Irishman at 16. At 15, we have Fly By Night, directed by Zahir Omar. It's a Malaysian film starring Sunny Pang. This is a very gritty, grimy crime movie. Tells the story of a man and his brother. They're sort of low-level criminals. They just do like scams, stealing from tourists. They work as taxi drivers, and it starts quite a simple crime movie, but it sort of goes quite deep when it's involved with like corrupt police officers and other gangsters in this, and it is so violent, and it's just such a fun movie. But not just if you like that sort of action, like the Raid sort of thing, but without the martial arts, I really recommend this. It's so grimy, and the cinematography is really nice. And I think it might be on Netflix, or it is on one of the streaming services. So I really recommend that movie. At number 14, we have The Crossing, directed by Baiju. Now, I reviewed this a few months ago, and it's it's about a young girl who gets involved with one of her best friend's boyfriends. Sort of like they smuggle electronic devices between Hong Kong and mainland China, and it's all about this smuggling scam that they've got going, bringing in like all the latest iPhones into the country, and it's quite on the edge of your seat, with like the tension between like the bits when she's going through customs. I really enjoyed this movie. As you could probably see in my review of it, I really loved it. I thought the cinematography was gorgeous, and yeah, an absolute charming film that leads on to a great character arc with this young girl, and that is The Crossing at number 14. At number 13 we have Todd Phillips' Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Now, Joaquin Phoenix is a actor that's deserved like accolades for so long, for films like Master, Her, just some of his work is just absolutely wonderful. He's a very, very intense actor, and his performance in this is just wonderful too, with a character that is so well known like the Joker, and giving this sort of different take on the Joker is just so original and so refreshing. It's more similar to I know a lot of people are comparing it to Scorsese's King of Comedy, but I would see it more as like the Taxi Driver. And I know it was gained a lot of criticism for its violence, and it says, well, you shouldn't really be showing this film about violence. I think it teaches more people about being nice to each other, and the effects of like a society where those people with a lot of issues are just left behind and forgotten of, and what happens to these people. So yeah, that is The Joker at number 13. At number 12 we have Samurai Marathon, directed by Bernard Rose. Bernard Rose is most known for directing Candyman, which is an American horror movie, but Samurai Marathon is a Japanese movie. I didn't know he did Asian cinema. It's all in Japanese. Now this film really surprised me, because when I read about the premise of it, I knew it was a true story, but I didn't think this film was so in. I don't know how to explain it. It's a film that just really just like smacks you in the face with like how this marathon became nearly a bloodbath, where a shogun organises a marathon from his town to Edo, and it just is completely mistaken as an attack, and just things go completely wrong in this, and it just turns out into a bit of a battle. But this marathon is now done every year in Japan, and I think this film is it's got so many characters in it with each their own story and their own reason for doing this marathon, and I just think it's a brilliant movie. Definitely worth checking out if you get a chance to see it. At number 11 is Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers, starring Adam Sandler. Now, Adam Sandler making a movie that's in my list for top movies of 2019. You would not really think would be possible, but he actually gives a really good performance in this. It's a film that just absolutely frustrated me, in the sense of like this character is just doing everything wrong, and you want to help him, but at the same time he's just doesn't help himself, and you're screaming at the screen just thinking, come on, sort your life out. An absolute intense movie about a jeweler who is just a scam artist. Brilliantly shot, and one of the best performances of the year with Adam Sandler. So definitely check out Uncut Gems. I think it'll be hitting Netflix at the end of the month in the UK. I think it's already out maybe in the US, but yeah, definitely check it out. At number 10, we have a film I reviewed earlier in the year. It is Wet Season, directed by Anthony Chen. It's his second movie after Ilo Ilo, and stars Yo Yan Yan. Yo Yan Yan won the Golden Horse Awards for Best Actress for this movie. I think she gives the best performance by an actress this year. I think it's so beautiful, her performance. She plays a wife who is having marriage problems, at the same time of like a bit of difficulty at work with some of her students who don't. She's a teacher. They don't seem to really be progressing. She's looking after her ill father-in-law, and it's so charming, so beautiful, and so emotional. And I think her performance just absolutely kills this film. It's just absolutely amazing, fantastic, and it makes this movie what it is really all down to her performance. At number 9, we have Better Days, directed by Derek Sang. Now, this movie got released in China, then got pulled off because of certain issues about its depiction of Chinese and bullying. But it's it's a very beautiful film. I think cinematography wise and the performances, but it's so dark and almost depressing, but you still are so engrossed in this film about a young girl who's getting bullied in school when she meets this hoodlum at one night, who later on becomes her knight in shining armour. And it's just a beautiful story, even though there's dark undertones in this film. Yes, that's Better Days. Definitely worth checking out. At number 8, we have Killing, directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. I'm a big fan of Tsukamoto. I think his Tetsuo movies are phenomenal. They're the movies that really changed Japanese cinema at a time when no one was really watching them outside of Japan. He released Tetsuo, which just blew away the Western audience. This movie is very different to some of his previous work. It's a samurai movie, but very dark, and in the Tsukamoto way, it's very, how can I say, it's a wonderful film, but it's so crazy. It's we have this young samurai who sort of doesn't like killing, but he's recruited to go on a mission to help out a shogun by Tsukamoto's character. It's violent. It's very violent. There's one scene which is just so extremely violent, but it's just wonderful. And the way it's filmed in this forest area in a village is beautiful. Tsukamoto, he's just got such a great style when it comes to filmmaking, and it's a very distinct style which really shows up in his films. So that is number 8, and that is Killing. At number 7, we have Forest of Love, directed by Shion Sono. There's so many of these directors that are some of the best contemporary Japanese directors, and they've all made films this year. Now, this is a film he'd done exclusive for Netflix, which I thought would be, why would they get Shion Sono? But this film is probably one of the best Asian movies on Netflix. I think there's a couple which is so good, but this is like one of the best ones. Probably not the best, which I'll talk about later on, but this is one of the best. It's got probably the most a villain in it, which is just so cool and charismatic. whilst he's very unlikable, I think he's probably the most charismatic bad guy you'll see this year. He's a con man who steals, scams families and steals women's hearts, and he has his sights locked on a young schoolgirl in this. Well, a girl. They're all these young schoolgirls that have now grown up and left school, but we're showing a lot of emphasis into their days in school. And Shion Sono is one of those directors who is so abstract in his filmmaking, and I think this was an absolute delight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's on Netflix. I recommend it to anyone who loves Shion Sono movies or like contemporary Japanese cinema, because this is what it's all about, really, is his style of filmmaking. So that is number 7, The Forest of Love, directed by Shion Sono. And number 6 is probably the best Asian movie that came out this year on Netflix. It is A Son. This film won the Golden Horse Awards for Best Movie. It's directed by Chang Mong-hong, who was the cinematographer of The Great Buddha Plus, which was one of my favourite movies of last year. This film is just... It's a film of two stories, two halves of which are so different. It tells the story of a family, 2 sons who are very young. From the very get-go of the movie, we see one of them commit a heinous crime where he's then put into prison, juvenile prison. His brother, on the other hand, is a student who's doing pretty well in school. Whilst he is very rebellious in his ideology, in his studying, he still is a hard worker, very poetic and creative and stylistic young man, who's in the complete opposite of his brother. But the film second half really goes into a more crime movie, which has you on the edge of your seat, really. It's a fantastic movie. I saw it and quite recently, and I was like, whoa, this turned my list upside down. But it had to be in there. It's definitely worth checking out. It's on Netflix, so please check it out, guys. You will thank me for it. So that is number 6, A Son. At number 5, we have another great contemporary Japanese director, one of the best, one known for his horror movies, but he's brought out a movie this year that is not a horror movie. It is To the Ends of the Earth, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. A film that I could simply say is a mixture of Alice in Wonderland meets Lost in Translation. I reviewed this back during the London Film Festival. A film that is just so crazy. It's a collaboration between Japan and Uzbekistan, and it's set in Uzbekistan, and it's the story of a journalist who goes to Uzbekistan to film about the culture and society over there, and due to her lack of knowledge in the language, she sort of gets into difficulties, but also gets to see great visions of their society and heritage, and that is To the Ends of the Earth. Please go check this out, guys, if you do get a chance to see it. Kiyoshi Kurosawa is one of the best Japanese directors. Cure is one of my favourite Japanese movies of all time, and I think he needs a look. The Western audiences, I don't think, appreciate him as much as they do in Asia. Bong Joon-ho has put Cure as his favourite film of all time, so please check out this movie and check out his other work, because he's one of the best. And number 4, we have Jia Zhang Kei's Ash is Purest White. if you're a regular of this channel, you know I'm a fan of Jia Zhangke. His films tell a lot about Chinese society. He's a director that just is not just a storyteller. He really does pick apart society and show us what is going on in China, in the world. I think he is very a director that, you know, deserves more accolades than what he's received, and I think he's probably the next Asian director that could get a Palme d'Or for his work, because I think some of his films are some of the best in the world, I think. And this story, this movie is about a woman who was in a relationship with a gangster and goes to prison to protect him. And it doesn't show a lot. It shows about her prison life a little, but very minimally. But it's about her release and how life has changed in that time. And I think Jia Zhangke is just such a great director. The cinematography in this, the performance is just breathtaking, and that is Ash's Purest White. At number 3, we have Takashi Miike's First Love. This is Takashi Miike back to his best, I think, to the standard of Audition and Ichi the Killer. It's a gangster movie, but it's more of a black comedy, very similar to Snatch, I would say, in the sense of there's so many characters in this. Now that's usually a bad thing, but in this, each character has got their story and their own agendas, and I think this is just absolutely fantastic. It had me on the edge of my seat. It had me laughing my head off. It had me crying at the same time, and it's about a young boy who's just been told by his doctor that he hasn't got long to live. He has I think a brain tumor caused by boxing, because he's a blue collar boxer, and he meets this young girl who sort of changes his life in a good way, and sort of like the bad way as well. But I can't wait for this to get a Blu-ray release in the UK. I want to watch it again. It's actually getting a release in February in cinema. So please check it out. If you like Takashi Miike, if you love any of his films, you will love this, because this is him back to his best work. Absolutely fantastic. I love this, every minute of it, and I just want to see it again. At number 2, we have Vigans Long Day's Journey into the Night. Now this movie is quite possibly the most beautiful film of the year. It's a story of a man who's just come back to his hometown, but after years of being away, and he goes on search for a love interest of his, and it's a beautiful journey to find this girl. But what makes this film so different is, in the middle of the film, we have this 3D scene. So it's like it sort of like tells you to put on your 3D glasses, and this 3D scene that's all done in one take is just absolutely phenomenal. If anyone gets a chance to see this film even in 2D, check it out, but please go see it in 3D. It is a wonder, and I think it got released last week or something. An absolute wonder. And the director's previous film, Kylie Blues, is a beauty, and this is just another gorgeous film with some of the best cinematography I've seen this year. Easily the most beautiful film this year, and that is my number 2. Now, my number one is probably, everyone probably predicted this. It is Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, with an ensemble Korean cast, but with the main emphasis going on Song Kang-ho, who is just brilliant in this film. I think that anyone should go in this film seeing it blind, but I think most people have probably seen it. If they haven't, it does get a general release in February in the theatres in the UK. But a brief synopsis is it's about two families on both scales of the living wage and in different lifestyles, where these I'm giving you this very briefly because I don't want to spoil this for anyone, because you should really go see this film blind, and they're like these two families' worlds collide, and is just the biggest slap in the face of just like, whoa, your head just explodes in this film. We see a discussion on class, the wage gap in Korea. It's just so much in this film, and I think Bong Joon-ho, whilst he's got a lot of hype for this film, it's not his best film. Even though it's probably the best film of the year in my opinion, it's not his best film. You really need to check out Memories of Murder and Mother. I think they're two of his best movies, and even his first movie, Barking Dogs Never Bite, I think Western audiences, whilst you've all now been introduced to Bong Joon-ho, please check out his earlier Korean titles, because the big studios have produced a lot of his films. I think his best work was more independent, and also his work with CJ Entertainment, because he's Korea's golden boy of directing, one of the golden boys of directing, so they do let him do whatever he wants. And also Netflix gave him carte blanche, because Netflix can do that with their directors, and he did Okja with them. But Okja is his worst film, I think. Whilst it is good, it's nowhere compared to his other films. And Memories of Murder and those movies are definitely ones to check out. So yeah, Parasite, fantastic movie, my film of the year. I think it was obvious it was going to be that. I spoke about it before. I've seen it 4 times now. I saw it in attendance with Bong Joon-ho and Song Kang-ho, where I met the director and the great Song Kang-ho. It's just a fantastic movie. It's breathtaking, it's heartbreaking, it's funny, it's emotional, it's everything. Please go check it out, guys. It comes out in February. Whilst there is some screenings around in January in the UK, its general releases in February, and it's just up for every award. It won the Palme d'Or, Golden Globe for Best Foreign Movie. He's up for Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Foreign Movie. Go check it out, guys. So thanks for watching. Let me know what your favourite films have been for this year. Obviously this is my list, so it may be different from everyone else's, but it's all subjective, you know. It's how you feel on the day. Sometimes lists change, sometimes they don't. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hit that subscribe button, click like, and I will see you in the next video, guys, which will probably be my top Blu-rays of 2019. Take it easy.